So anyways, we weren't here to talk about oxytocin. We're here to talk about leadership and dedication, because that's what we're going to talk about, is how do you operate when you're doing something grassroots or something outside of big, well-funded corporate America. So like a nonprofit, startup. Probably all of you at some point in your careers will be involved with a nonprofit, startup, a community group, grassroots, student group. I mean, are any of you doing that now? I'm thinking probably. How many are? One of the keys is to have 110% commitment. And you've all heard that before. Like 110%, well, what does that mean, 110? Like, how can you give more than 100%? Well, the extra 10 comes from being so committed that you're willing to go out of your comfort zone. That you're able to push yourself so hard, harder than you thought you could push yourself, and you're able to do it. And no excuses. However, there is one excuse, and that you can and should use as a leader. Does anybody know what that excuse is? It's an excuse you've heard before, and you're going to be like, how is that applicable to leadership? But it's an excuse you've heard before. Okay, great, you get a prize. What would a group of women be doing without chocolate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the dog ate my homework. And I'm going to tell you why. There are 3 stages of leadership development. First, you're going to educate yourself. And you all know that because you're doing that now. Second, you're going to create. And third, you're going to operate. And just to let you guys know, and this is a funnier story, why I came up with a dog ate my homework for the principals. I told you that my dog, Audrey, was the one that was attached to the side gate. Bassets make every other dog look anorexic because they will eat anything that's not breathing. They have a great temperament, but they could eat themselves to death. They could. So Audrey used to have this habit of going across the same highway that we had to walk along and going into Safeway, and which is a chain. I don't know if it's nationwide, but it's just a grocery store. She'd beg her way in, and then she'd go jump on the butcher counter and eat as much meat as she could until the butcher chased her out. And then she would, she'd be so full that she'd just lay on the highway and moaning and rubbing her back, and people would be like, stop, traffic would be stopped, and people would come to the house and bang on the door like, your damn dog's sleeping in the middle of the highway, pissed, right? Because it's always the same time of day, because they're very routine-oriented dogs. And the butcher would come and say, you owe Safeway $100 for meat, and it was like, every day. Every day this dog would do that. So it's very easy for me to remember the dog ate, because my dog could. If it had any kind of seasoning on it, she's in. She's going to eat it. So, operate is part 3, and it has 7 steps under it. I call it the 7 steps of evangelism. And it has nothing to do with Christianity. So there's 7 aspects of evangelism that I think any leader could benefit from doing. First thing is you need a preacher. So the preacher becomes, in your cases, a leader. But what quality would you say that a leader needs to have to be effective, especially getting something new or something that doesn't have a lot of money to begin with off the ground? Think about some leaders. Yeah, that was the word. Passion. That's generic. So you need a passionate leader. And then once you have a passionate leader, which I'm assuming all of you will be, because you're here, you need a plan, right? And that plan is something, and it's your doctrine, right? Becomes your plan. And it's a plan that you what?
Create.
Good. Awesome, you guys all got that. All right. When you're writing your plan, you should be a journalist. So first thing that you would look at is what? What is something that you want to have happen so badly, so deeply, that you'd be willing to do it for free?
For me, one of the best questions that you asked, and I'm still thinking about it, is what is something that you would do so badly that you would do it for free? And that really still has me pondering.
The next thing you want to ask yourself is why. Why do you want it so deeply? And you shared a little bit the whys too, but you want to write that down for yourself as, why do you want it? Because there are going to be times when you're like, again, like, this sucks, this is too hard, and you have to remind yourself, what's the why for motivating yourself to do it. And the third thing you're going to ask yourself is where? Like, where do you want to be? You always hear people saying that. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And it gets kind of like overwhelming. And I think that people ask college students that too much. Like, sometimes I think it's like a form of psychological abuse. Like, great, now what are you going to do with your life? Like, don't ask someone that. So when I say where do you want to be, it's more like your desired outcome. When you give yourself a goal, how are you visualizing it? For me, I'm visual. So I can visualize and I can feel it. Like I give myself like what it will feel like when I actually achieve something that I want to achieve.
When you asked me that, it really forced me to hold myself accountable almost for something that I loved, and it was really great.
Who? And this is one that I think a lot of people don't ask themselves. Who do you want to be associated with? And also, when? Here's a big one, and part of it's like the producer, project manager in me saying this. Give yourself a deadline. And a realistic one. And the last thing you want to ask yourself is how. How can you measure your progress? And how do you want to be remembered? And this is something that I do hear a lot of people say is like, what do you want people to say in your eulogy? Well, that's a little bit morbid. But when people talk about you, that's really important for leaders to feel that way, to feel like, you're going to give back and, to serve a purpose besides just, a beamer or something, like to have a bigger cause in mind. So back to the third stage. We're talking about the fourth part that I want, and this is the final point I actually want to discuss with you guys. And this is the most important part, and this is where the technology stuff comes in. What would be considered proselytizing in a religious circle becomes something else for leaders. And can anybody guess what that is? Recruit? Who said that? That's one of them. All right. And there's another one that starts with an O. What'd you say? Yep. That's the other. I'm sorry. So recruiting and outreach. Recruiting and outreach. And that's a really key thing. If you're going to lead any kind of grassroots, nonprofit, startup, small business, in other words, what's a leader if you don't have followers, right?
I also liked how you discussed about being passionate and how being passionate attracts people to you. And I guess that helps me because I'm more of a, when it comes to what I really want to do, I kind of keep stuff to myself. Mm-hmm. So perhaps if I come like a little bit more of an extrovert when it comes to that area, then perhaps I can get the ball rolling for what I really want to do. So I appreciate that advice.
There are 4 companies that really stand out to me as great resources for people who want to use technology to further their cause. And big time for recruiting and outreach, because I know I use it for all of my films. I've used it for lots of wildlife causes, and I've been able to get results. I get people excited about it, behind me, money, resources by using these tools. I mention these tools because they're the tools that you would use for production, distribution, and marketing. Those are that's for anything you're doing in leadership. It comes down to those business steps of getting people to hear about it, getting it done. I mean, these are the tools I've used for like my features.
Unlike other speakers, I think you really, you didn't just talk about theories, you told us something that was true and you presented it in such a believable and I think moving account that I think it's going to inspire us all really to go out there.
Yeah.
To do those things.
Fight the power.
Right. What would you do for free? Like that just makes us think about it and motivate us more, seeing how you've done it. And so I guess we can do it too.
Of course you can. Especially, guerrilla leadership, because change the world. I mean, I still believe that. I mean, it sounds like, idealistic and naive, but, I'm in my 30s, I still believe it. I still absolutely believe that, you can start your own thing and rock the boat. I really do believe that, because I know I've done it on little bits and it'll just get bigger. So I encourage all of you to have that same mindset.
Guerrilla leadership on 3. 1, 2, 3. Guerrilla leadership!
One thing I've learned is how to be a good networker. And so a good part of networking is not only with your peers, because I think when you're in college, you're really focused on, your classmates. And, maybe right after college you start thinking about, oh, I need to try to find someone who can help me figure out what I want to do. But really doing a good job of networking is being involved with people ahead of you, parallel to you, and a little bit behind you. And it's not behind it like to be condescending. It's people who are going to have a different perspective. I actually have a giveaway that I put together for you guys. It has the leadership principles on it. Some of the top 20 leadership mistakes on it. They're little bookmarks, and they're laminated. I think they're pretty nice. They're Gorilla. You're like, I made them, right? I made them, but I also made them not only to give you guys some of the principles, but also so that you guys are able to network with each other, because everybody has something different. So to find out what the other ones are, you have to talk to someone else.
And the fact that you even asked us, well, I think so much behind the question, like, would you do it for free, made you really look into your heart to see what you're really passionate about. And all the things that you say you might do, like for financial reasons or for your family, you kind of put all that to the side like she did to pull out what it really is in you that is going to propel you to do things that will make your life whole. And so that's what I appreciated about the presentation.
And I'm leaving you guys with that because one of the leadership mistakes that I see people do is that they're too afraid to even take the chance on being in a leadership position, especially women. I know I've done it. I've done it. So I'm putting it out there to you guys to have the courage to shine.